Hello, everybody. This is Emiliano Conde from jBilling. Welcome to this very exciting webinar. I am here with Ziad, which is one of our sales engineers. Hello, Ziad. How are you?
Hi, Emiliano. It's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. We're very excited today to introduce jBilling 4 to all of you. It's been 3 years in the making, so there's a lot of excitement. And with good reason because it's a lot of new features and a new way to also offer in jBilling that we are going to show you today. So let's get started. As I said, jBilling 4, just like the other major releases of jBilling, it's um, it's a major release. That means that we have um, a lot of new features, some of them from scratch that extend the system with new modules such as asset management or inventory. And also we have some features that extend on what we already had and make areas like product management a lot better. Now, along with these new features, we'll also have JBilling as a service. That's very exciting. It means that you do not need to install JBilling to run your billing system with JBilling. Um, and the combination of these two make for a lot of value for those of you that are interested in JBilling. First, a highly simplified product management with the way we have rate cards and plans and nested plans and products and categories. We have simplify the product management of JBilling considerably. Then we are also having the concept of super configuration, which means that you can make the billing system do things very, very different than what it would do out of the box just by configuring different modules. So things like having different types of customers, you just do that adding a new account type in JBilling, or having a different invoice for some of your customers, changing the way the invoice looks, changing the plans, the products, the discounts, the taxes, all that you do with configuration. You don't need to customize the billing system. On top of this, well, we have jBilling running as a service. This is optional. You can also keep running jBilling on-prem, but getting jBilling as a service adds a lot of value to any organization. You don't need any infrastructure. You don't need to worry about PCI compliance. You don't need to um, have all the personnel and the worries about patching, DBA, security, backups, and all those things. So a lot come from just having um, a billing system running somewhere else and consuming that as a service. All this combined means that an implementation that would take potentially months now would take weeks. We're dividing the implementation time by four. Instead of a couple of months, how about something that takes a couple of weeks? The system is already installed, the system is pre-configured for telco use cases, so the rest is, okay, let's load up those plans, those rate cards, those account types, inventory, potentially creating some mediation modules or provisioning, but the work is significantly lower. All right, so as probably you all know, JBilling has been around for a long time, about 10 years, and many different companies have trusted us with their billing. That means not just uh, the billing software itself, but also all the work to deploy the billing system and do the implementation and integration. And we have done that as well with the help of partners that we have around the world, which they develop their own expertise on jBilling. Now, going back to our release, we have um, two new things that I was mentioning earlier, the deployment options and the new features. New features that we have developed over 3 years. And I would say most of the last year has been mostly testing, fixing bugs. Hundreds of bugs we found them fixed, and and that means that you can rely on a trusted provider like jBilling, not just to give you software, but also to give you that as a service. And with billing as a service, then of course you have a much faster rollout. You have the benefits of shorter implementation times. We don't need to go and install. We don't need to go provision that hardware. We don't need to worry about the scalability, security, and a whole host of other things. Now, the idea is that we'll show you these new features with a demo. With here, my friend Ziad, we're going to be showing you these features, and we're going to do so in the context of a scenario. So we have a scenario plan with a fictitious company we call Greentel that would be in the Northeast, in the Washington area of the U.S. And let's talk a little bit about this company. Tell us all Greentel's, yeah.
Okay, great. So Greentel is as you mentioned, is a fictional company. They're a telco located in Washington, and right now focusing on providing voice services to residentials in that region. But now they have a new opportunity with the government, and and thus they're expanding towards that domain. As they move to the government, they're projecting to have to consume around 50 million CDRs a day.
That's a 10 time increase on CDRs, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on the data center.
Well, absolutely. So currently they have only 3 servers where they run their billing system on. But as they move to 50 million CDRs a day, that's going to be multiple folds.
We don't even know how many, and with more servers, we also need more infrastructure, more people to run them.
Absolutely. So right now they have one IT guy who acts as a sysadmin and as the DBA, maintains the billing system. But as the billing system grows, who knows how many more IT guys they need to hire.
Which is not what Greentel really wants to do. They don't want to hire DBAs and sysadmins. They don't know how to manage. Those guys are trouble. I was one of them 2 lifetimes ago, and but they have no option, right? They have to run a secure environment. It's great. They have to process credit cards. That's a big deal. They have lots of customer information. Today they sort of are secure, but with the government, these requirements change.
So the government does not deal with the telco unless they are PCI compliant. So therefore, Greentel now has to become PCI compliant.
Yes, and we know from experience that PCI compliance is going to be a big deal for them. It's been a big deal for us, and there's a matter of the invoice presentation as well. They have an old invoice, well, and that's okay for the customers they have. It's the same invoice for all customers. That's okay, but with the government, that is not enough.
Right. So the government requires a more detailed invoice, much more data in the invoice, and possibly multiple invoices for different departments. So, so Greentel now is facing the issue of having to have a flexible system that creates different invoices and handles multiple invoices as well.
Right. So, in some cases, that means it would mean in many cases that Greenfield would need just a new billing system for those government customers. That would be the typical scenario or the typical way to deal with this situation. Um, because today, of course, we just have one type of customer, but the government or basically having another type of customer means that we need more data, different type of data. For example, we need the agency or the vendor ID in the invoice or what other things that are totally different than residential.
So the government requires the budget code, for example, where is the money coming out from, an employee ID, instead of the residential address, your office address. So there's many different data fields for the government customer rather than the residential.
All right. So there's a small, and I say that really because it's the biggest of all problems, which is the area of pricing, bundling, and product management in general. Because today, so you see, Greentel operates in a small, let's say, limited geographical area. That means that there is just one rate card does it, and they have the pricing is pretty much the same for everybody, and that's the end of it. But with government coming in, they negotiate different types of rates for different secretaries or agencies, and that will make it quite more complex.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government will need flexibility on the product management, different plans, different products, and multiple rate cards.
And that might change all the time as well, right?
Exactly.
Now, you see, this is when Greentel decides that having the same billing system twice won't do the trick because the current billing system doesn't allow for easy product management. That's a key new requirement. And as they see the new requirements and they think, well, that's something we really would like to have for our current customers too, for the residential customers. So that's why they decide to just get into a 21st century billing system. There is the matter of inventory or just asset management. You see, today, um, Greentel manages DIDs or phone numbers with a little bit of a side system. Some people say Excel, but they deny it. In any case, what's going on, it's not very clear, but manually, eventually, they have to enter a phone number that comes from some kind of inventory that then they will have to make sure not to give that phone number to someone else. Now, this goes into a little bit of an extra problematic situation with the government situation.
Yeah, so with the government, Greentel will also be providing physical phones to their customers. And they need to keep track of the serial numbers of each of the physical phones and whether it's in use or available and who is using it as well, on top of the DIDs.
Yeah, so they really need now to start combining well their inventory with their billing too. So they can even show in the invoice which phone number you've been assigned or which phones, how many do you have. Um, so inventory is certainly something to address. We also have the matter of taxes, right? Because as they operate in a small geographical area, the taxes are, I wouldn't say simple, but at least they are not crazy complex. Nobody is completely sure in Greentel that they are doing the right thing with taxes even today, but we're going with the government. We're certainly not going to be in a good situation because the government has offices in many areas of the country which have different taxation rules and different reporting rules or requirements, and that's going to be a big deal if we need to switch to something that will accurately calculate those taxes and report correctly. So that's the scenario that we have today. And through this scenario, we're going to show you some of the key features of JBilling 4. I say some because certainly there's hundreds of them, and we need to just pick a few and show them to you in a practical way. That's what we want to do with this scenario today. And let's start with these first three um, requirements. We have the issue of running the the whole infrastructure for running billing on-prem with Greentel today. Well, three servers is it's a little bit too much of what they would like. You know, this one guy that it makes sure that the antivirus is correctly installed and so on, and takes care of buying a new mouse for the person that broke it, is the same guy that's supposed to be DBA, the same guy that's supposed to be sysadmin, the same guy that cleans the fridge and all those things. So yeah, Greentel is happy to start using billing as a service because you see, if you run on-prem, you need hardware, and that hardware needs to be running somewhere in a data center, and that data center needs to be operated or maintained by someone, that poor fella, the DBA slash sysadmin. and all that in a secure way, which security is becoming more of an issue these days. Large companies like Home Depot or Sony get hacked big time. Imagine someone that really runs as a matter of on the daily basis. They have lots of customer information. So PCI compliance is important, and all that then needs a licensing and support because you do need databases, operating system, billing system, application servers. All those things need to be addressed. So Greentel is switching to SaaS, and when they switch to SaaS, they start to consume billing as a service. They don't need hardware anymore. If they don't need hardware, they don't need to put it anywhere. So all those needs for electricity and backups and so on that go away. They don't need the sysadmin to keep everything patched. They don't need the DBA to do the backups and tune the database and so on. And maybe what it would be, at least in the near future, the most important or the most difficult thing to comply, because the previous things are a matter of just say cost, but PCI compliance go even beyond cost, go with the knowledge. They have to build the knowledge, and they are very relieved not to have to be PCI compliance anymore. And all, with all that, they don't need license support because when you run billing as a service, basically you pay as you go. jBilling is taking care of all the infrastructure and operational side of a mission critical system as a billing system is, especially for a telco company. And Greentel can pay per month, and with plans that make it flexible, and the the cost of running the billing solution is directly related to how much they use. Almost like if you were consuming electricity, how much you use is how much you pay. Now, of course, this all sounds really good, but most of you are probably thinking, look, billing today, as general, billing is something that has a lot of difficulties with performance. How is it that JBilling could run billing for telcos in a scalable way that many telcos could run basically on the same infrastructure? That goes uh, into scalability, which it's an issue that Greentel will face, right? Because we're moving from 5 million CDRs to 50 million CDRs. If you run JBilling for on-premise, which is always an option, you will be also happy to know that it's scalable and scales horizontally. So how we do it? Well, first of all, we specialize servers and we cluster those specialized servers. We can have servers that just run the API, others that just run batch servers and then services, and then we have mediation servers that also scale horizontally. So I might have 7 servers plus my database server, and then if I want more throughput, I can just simply add another server to put some specific batch processes in that server, and then add a couple of more servers for mediation. Mediation, though, is of special interest because that's where Greentel is really jumping from 5 to 50 million CDRs. jBilling 4 has a Hadoop-based mediation module that processes CDRs in parallel. That means horizontal scalability, thousands of CDRs per second, and really a way to scale without having to rewrite any code, without having to buy bigger and bigger computers. And since we host our own service on a cloud like the Elastic Cloud of Amazon, we can easily spawn new nodes in this mediation cluster and scale horizontally. And with this, we can move on then to a more functional area of the presentation. Are you excited, Zian?
Very excited.
Lots of new features here. The only thing that I regret is not having 10 hours for this webinar, but I'm sure you will be happy about that. Just 1 hour today. Let's start with the product management, though. The product management it's where really jBilling it shines, I would say, and certainly where we made the most improvements compared to jBilling 3. Greentel needs to have more rate cards, more plans, and the way jBilling 4 does it, and this is just a very simplified view of it, is first of all we make a bundle of products, so the products um, are defined with their own pricing, like unlimited US and Canada calls or unlimited local calls. No, we can group those three into one small bundle that has a monthly fee of 39.90. But on the other hand, we also have pricing of products that might be bought along the month and that will be metered for usage and charged differently every month, depending on how much usage there were. So we have a default pricing, a very long rate card, for example, with all the possible destinations, and then one European rate card that overrides those prices for just the destinations that to Europe. We combine all this into one big plan, which is the European Special Plan for 39.90. Well, that would be a quick example. Let's take a look now to how this would look in jBilling 4.
Okay, so there's a spreadsheet, and this is what we call a rate card. Now, it might look a bit scary to you, but what it is, it's simply what the marketing or the product management team will tell your admin, your billing admin, to implement. So here I have, for example, a charge that will apply to a certain criteria, for example, a prefix of the destination number, or that could be an area code. So I want to charge this much for the UK, maybe London, with that prefix, etc. So this is really what the rate card is about. So as the marketing team provides that to the billing admin, with all these criteria, you can have initial increment where any phone call under 60 seconds will just round it up and charge a full minute. Any subsequent seconds will round them up to 30 seconds, and maybe a connection charge, so a one-time charge of 36 seconds the minute you connect.
So Ziad, if I call the UK for 62 seconds, how many seconds do I pay?
In this case, you will pay 90 seconds in total, 30 seconds for the 2 seconds above the minute and the full minute.
Great, and it looks like I can change that almost for every destination.
Absolutely. So this could be different for every destination. And as you can see, it's a spreadsheet. So all you have to do is just change the numbers in here.
Great.
So this is what a rate card is. Now, if you have it in a spreadsheet, jBilling can consume it easily by just uploading it to the hosted version. So here I'm logging in via a URL. Nothing special. All you need is a browser.
Right.
If I click on root rate cards on the left-hand side, I have some rate cards uploaded. And so, for example, I can upload an international rate card here by simply clicking on upload file, choosing the spreadsheet that I was showing earlier, possibly, saving it, and that's it. So as simple as that.
We've got a new rate card, and I can have as many as I want.
You can have as many as you want, and for any region, or even the regions can overlap as well.
Now, Ziad, I saw a few columns there, but what if my rate card has more criteria? For example, I don't know, the region of the US. Can I add more specialized criteria?
Absolutely. You can add criteria and columns to the rate card without any code changes. It's simply configuration. So now you're probably wondering, okay, well, I have this rate card. How do I link it to a product? Simply, if I click on the products tab, and I have a few categories here. So as you can see, I have minutes and messages, mobile services, physical phones. If I click on minutes and messages, I have certain products related to regions. I have Australia, America, Africa, Europe, Asia, and national. So if I click on Europe as an example, and I added the following product. Some of the things you need to fill out are a description, a product code, possibly a GL code, if you want to have an expiry date for the following product. But most importantly is your pricing model. And in this example, I have linked the rate card that I uploaded earlier, which is a spreadsheet, in here, and I have the list of all the rate cards that I've uploaded. So I've chosen for this plan, because it's a Europe product, I will want to use the pricing that is in the Euro rate card.
Great.
Now, many more pricing models are available in jBilling. We're focusing here on rate cards because Greentel is a voice provider, but we also have a flat, which is free, metered, which is a specific price per unit, a tiered, volume, etc. All that are out of the box pricing models. Currencies are also multiple currencies are also available. In this case, we're using the US dollar. And more importantly, there is a timeline for the pricing. So I can have a rate card apply today and then another rate card apply in February, for example.
So I can plan ahead and say, well, starting on January 1st, my pricing is going to be this for this product. In the meantime, it keeps the same product, the same price.
Absolutely, and we keep the history, and you'll be able to go back and see what was the price last year or 2 years ago, etc.
So if we process usage, for example, call detail records, CDRs that are a little bit old, which happens in the telecom industry, they will be rated at the price that at that time the product has.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is how I create my product. Now you're probably wondering, well, what if I want to bundle some of those products together? What if I want to have a plan? And that's when we go to the plans tab on top. And I've created a few plans here, like unlimited call anywhere, where you pay $120 flat fee a month, and you have absolutely unlimited calling to all the world. So Europe, across the US, Asia, and Africa. Now, what if I want to have an international plan, for example? Let's edit the following plan. Okay, so there's my plan, and as you can see, it's a period of it's a monthly plan. The currency is US. There's no expiry date on it. The rate is $100 a month, and the following products, which were created under the products tab, are included in this bundle.
So the plan, I can basically group products and price them differently that they would be otherwise priced on their own.
Exactly. So right in this specific plan, I've overridden the product price for the national minutes and I've made it free, for example. But at the product level, it had a different pricing model. Now, if I go to Europe, I can choose the Europe rate card, which was inherited from the product earlier, or I can change it just for the specific plan.
That's right. So I could have people calling Europe at different prices just because they are on different plans, and have all the prices neatly arranged in rate cards that apply to the right plan.
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is in a nutshell the flexibility of our product management in jBilling.
Right, because then we do have nested plans, we have hierarchies of products, dependencies of products, all sorts of validations to be able to sell or not sell. It goes well beyond this.
Absolutely.
But we wanted to at least show in the context of our scenario, some of the actual price management in action. So that's great. Thank you, Ziad. Well, let's move on now to our next. I think in the wrong one. There you go. So let's go to what we call account types. So account types is what allows us to have one billing system and many types of customers. Many types of customers. It's something that companies need to do more and more because they address different segments, different markets, and In the case of Greentel, well, they have residential, but they are going into government, and really they need to sell basically the same product at times, like unlimited US and Canada. All right. So we used to sell this to residential. I don't want to have another billing system, duplicate all the products, duplicate a lot of work like provisioning and mediation. I don't want to. That's a lot of cost and a lot of headaches. With jBilling, you can run just one billing system, define that you have two different types of customers, or three or 10, it's up to you. And then they say, okay, this product I'm going to sell to the government and I'm going to sell to residential, but the government is going to pay one price and the residential will pay a different price, just because there are different types of customers. And I can also say then, well, for the government, I need a specific invoice presentation design that shows the right data so the government will pay me, because they have very detailed and concrete requirements of what exactly the invoice has to say, so account payables will pay it. The data and the arrangement of the data is more like a complex report when it comes to the government, while the guys in residential don't need to see all that. They don't need to, they don't want to, and it would confuse them. So they need to keep more or less the same invoice. So although it was an ugly invoice, and they would be happy to get a little bit of a revamped look. Uh, they all in all, the information it's okay. So account types allows you to have different invoice presentation, different pricing, but it goes beyond, because the government needs to be building specific dates. In this case, the government tells Greentel when they expect an invoice, and they should not get an invoice before. When with residential, it's up to Greentel to define that. So different billing cycles, potentially different currencies and languages doesn't apply to Greentel, but it's part of our account types feature. And customer data fields, what we call also meta fields. This is the type of data that the system will gather for different customers that then we can use for things like pricing, for invoice presentation, for all sorts of things we can use that data. The residential people don't want to see, say, a vendor ID in their invoices. They don't know what that is, but in the government case, that's a must. So those things need to be addressed. Let's take a look to how that looks in jBilling for the whole account types feature. Not it. That's it.
Right. Great. So let's go to account types in jBilling. So here under account types, I have three groups of accounts that I want to manage. But mainly let's focus on the two, the residential and the government. If I click on the residential on the right-hand side, you'll be able to see the data fields that I'd like for the residential customers to have. For example, the contact, an email address, and a residential address. But that's it, very simple. Now, if I click on the government, you'll see different data fields. Employee ID that is required, budget code, department, office address, etc. Those are all added via configuration. No code changes were applied here. Now, on top of that, if I edit the government account type, you'll be able to see that I can have a billing cycle applied to all the customers under that account type. An invoice template, so I have a government invoice which would be tailored and specific to the government and only applies to those customers. A currency, language, and payment method, and an invoice delivery method as well. All these attributes will be inherited by the customers that are linked to the specific account type.
So if I want to say government now, they have different agencies, and I need to give them different prices. Can I do that?
Yeah, so you can create multiple account types, and each account type can have a different pricing. So for example, I showed you how we can do the data fields, but if I go down to the bottom and I click on prices,
I see.
I'm able to override the plan and the product prices for the specific account type. So for example, I have the unlimited call anywhere for $120, but maybe for the government or for a specific department, I would like it to be a different price. So you can change the price here from 120 to possibly will increase the price a bit to 135 a month. Save changes, and as you can see right now, I have a $135 a month uh, overridden price for the unlimited call anywhere plan. I can remove that by clicking on the red X as well, and we'll go back to the original price, which was 120, I believe. There you go.
Great. So we've got the ability to quickly change the prices, to also have described, because that's what we do. We do meta fields that describe the data that this customer is going to need, this customer type is going to need. And we call those meta fields.